say so, my lord. Folks, are you strapped in? Because you better get strapped in, because holy shit, we got a storm coming through. A storm coming through your neighborhood. You better bash down the hatchet, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, we're into Skulletville. I'm the mayor, and we got an incredible guest for you. That's right, all the way from New York City. Put those hands together for Ben Kirschenbaum.
Hey. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Hey, of course.
Love the intro.
Thank you, man. Welcome to Skulletville. It's kind of like Whoville, but our haircuts are a little bit better. One thing real quick, folks. Please rate, review, subscribe. Everyone who reviews the podcast will get a Skullet sticker here. Also, my assistant will write you a personal note. I'm not doing that anymore, but I do have a personal assistant. They live in India. How you doing,
That's
man?
a good setup.
Thank you so much.
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm all right, dude. I'm a little chilly, but we're doing it, man. Wintertime, 2025, you know?
Yeah. Why is it colder here? I was at the gym and they showed the map of, the country, and it's like the coldest here, even more than like Detroit.
Is it really?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with you guys.
I don't know. I think they're really upset about how we voted.
Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So just
who's they in this situation? You could say Jews. You could
look. I didn't want
too
to
early
say
for this. Okay.
Too early. Too close to the Christmas tree.
Okay.
Speaking of which, actually,
Yeah.
let's just get this out of the way, man. Great to see you, man. Great to see you.
Yeah.
We got a little gift for you.
Whoa! No way.
Yeah, we got a gift for you, man.
All right.
So, you do mention that you are Jewish, but over here we strictly celebrate Christmas.
No.
And so we made a little Ben Kirschenbaum ornament.
Oh, it's uncanny. Look at that. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much.
Of course, man. This is
Yeah.
a courtesy of MrsJessiRoot on Instagram. That's
Okay.
Tim's sister, but she does all of our
Oh, that's really nice. Thank
all of
you.
our-
Please tell her thank you.
all of our little skillet ornaments. So that's me, and this is Tim, and we've got some other guests as well.
Nice.
man.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a flattering one. I think I look good. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. I like it. The beard's good. Yeah. Perfect.
Steven Seagal, I thought when I saw it, I was like, it could also be Steven Seagal.
I get that a lot. Yeah.
How are you?
Steven Seagal now. It's exclusively that.
Shit. Well, Ben is a great comic. Lives in New York City. You and I have known each other for a while, man. So it's cool to see. I don't think I've seen you since the pandemic. Maybe I know we did some virtual shows together.
Oh, God. Yeah. You're right. Those were rough.
Yeah.
I think, with some of those, were you on one with me where not only did people mute themselves, because you kind of have to, otherwise the noise, you pick up the noise. I was on a few where pretty much everyone shut their cameras off too.
Totally. Yeah.
And then you would just get little thumbs ups if you were lucky, you'd get a thumbs up.
I didn't get any thumbs ups. I was just kind of performing for myself, and I had a great time, to be honest.
Oh, really?
I was really it was everyone was kind of going crazy, but I remember really kind of trying to mess with the form. I was like, maybe I found a real Blair Witch Project kind of style of shaky. I would shake my computer and stuff and show up from the sides, and no one really appreciated the work I put in.
Yeah. I guess there was something a little liberating about that time where it's there's no real such thing as bombing.
Right. Yeah.
At least that you're aware of. You might be bombing, but it all seems the same.
Yeah, it was more or less. It felt more like acting than anything, than really doing comedy.
Yeah,
which was fine. I don't know. But Ben has a great special. You put out how recently?
A couple months ago. Yeah, late September.
And it's doing well. I was watching it earlier today, man. Great job. Great
thanks,
special,
man.
dude.
Thank
and
you.
you put that out through Mark Norman's YouTube.
It's on Norman's YouTube. Yeah,
That's sick, bro.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's the only reason why I got views.
You think so? I don't know.
I don't have many subscribers, so I don't know how it works in terms of. Well, what was your experience? In terms of the algorithm.
I don't know. I don't really know. I was surprised that I got some views on mine.
Yeah.
And I think it just got picked up. I think there's something about the people sharing it, and your friends, I think they just share it just to be nice, and then it just kind of gets picked up by people. The algorithm's I guess people are sharing, people must like it, and then it just kind of gets into that thing of, because there are a lot of YouTube specials, and I think that something about the shares and stuff, it just becomes a thing that kind of pops up for people.
Yeah, it could drive you crazy though in terms of the butterfly effect aspects of. Like I was having in my mind, like, oh, if I had released this at 7:01, would it have gotten a different response than at 7:00? Just in terms of the algorithm vortex picking it up or not.
What was your experience like preparing for that?
Preparing for it, I was doing, I mean, as many sets as I could, obviously leading up to it. I think I kind of arranged with the club that I would do it about 6 or 7 months before we recorded.
Okay.
So I had, I don't know if that's like a lot of time. I mean, it's my first special, so it's built up all the material that I've done, you know, for all of stand-up.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just like getting tired of saying the same jokes.
Sure.
Not that I've, you know, I could still say them or whatever, but at least in my head, it kind of like closed a chapter a little bit.
Yeah. Now, where did you do it? I couldn't figure out where you did it at.
New York Comedy Club on 24th in the Gramercy area of Manhattan.
Okay.
But they took the sign down and they did the lights a little different, so it's pretty unrecognizable.
I was like, it does look like New York Comedy Club, but I'm like, this can't be.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, it's purple.
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah. They did like a kind of unique setup. It was really cool. I mean, I like just like the look of it. I really, really like how it came out.
Did you do like one run through? Did you have two?
Two shows.
Two shows. That's
which
sick,
was huge.
Man. That's huge.
And I did well on the first show. Well enough that I was like, okay, if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Which I think loosened me up for the second show, where I feel like I did a lot better.
Oh, that's nice.
So I used like probably most of the second show.
Yeah. We did, mine was, I just had one.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer. But I do remember this, that when I was preparing, I think I told you this yesterday, but when we were preparing, my friend who was producing the whole thing had just gotten dumped, you know? So like, I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm very excited. And he's just like, fucking, why won't this bitch write me back? You know? And he's like freaking out. I'm just like trying to be like in a good mood and stuff. And he's arguing with the other woman who owns the place, and they're having a whole thing. And then she just goes, you know, we'll bleep this. He's being a real cunt right now, you know? And I was just like,
where are you bleeping your contact?
Great question. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
That's the question for my associate behind the glass over there. But it was just sort of like, it was just just like one of those things where I'm like, okay, well, he's my cunt tonight, and I'm just going to be in a good mood no matter what.
It's
you know?
tough. That day of is very, I made a big mistake where I was talking to my wife. I was stressed, but also like, you know, just adrenaline pumping. So hard to, like, nervous, but also good energy. And she was like, why are you so, like, you know, this is, I get that it's a big night, but like, you know, relax. Like, what's the big deal? And I was like, well, it's hard to explain, but like, you know how like the wedding was like your day? And she's like, what? You mean our day? And I was like, yeah, but like you did all the planning and like all this stuff. It was a hard backtrack type thing. It's like try to make it into a compliment where I was like, I'm a piece of shit. I didn't do anything, you know. But yeah, it's that day of is like a very it's a cool experience, but you know, you feel like a lot's riding on it.
Yeah. I was just nervous that no one was gonna show up, you know?
Yeah.
At my wedding. I'm kidding. No, at the show, I was just like, are people gonna show? Like, is it gonna be? Is the sound gonna be bad? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But we were talking about it. Like, I really like the room that you did it in.
Oh, thank you, man.
I think it's like a really cool location for a special.
Yeah, I was happy. Like I said, I was happy with it. I mean,
yeah, no, it's awesome.
When you did yours, did you have like? Was it just you? Did you have a host? Did you have a feature? Like, how did you?
Yeah, I had a couple buddies. I did. So it was two shows. I had a host and a feature, both do short sets for each, and I used different comics for the two shows.
Okay.
I don't know, just like kind of spread out the stage time a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, they probably did like 8 minutes each. It was one of those things where it was like I didn't really know how long I was going to go, so like better safe than sorry sort of thing, and just kind of.
I mean, it was I think you were up to like 54 was the... Yeah.
I mean, I think I did a little under an hour on one show and a little over an hour on the other. And then there was like some political jokes in there that I recorded in April and then I released it in September. And if you think about like the amount of political changes that happened in that period, where it's like, you know, I had a couple Biden jokes and like by the time it's like September...
He's dead.
He's dead. Yeah, right. So it's just I had to adapt to the death of Joe Biden. So I put in. So I took out some stuff or whatever. I think that was like the main cuts where it was like people don't care about this thing
Right.
anymore. So
Sure.
And I kind of knew it as I was performing it too, where I was like, there's nothing, this is like the only timely jokes in the whole thing. So why am I even doing it?
Yeah, there's a lot of like big time specials that happened like, and they put out like after an election or something, and you're just like, this is like, I'm sure like Burr had a bunch of stuff too, and I'm like, this is like doesn't really age very well. Like I can't believe that it just sucks when something on that scale too. So it's nice that you're able to like adapt and stuff and kind of cut those posts,
Even like some of the Carlin like stand-ups and like some of the classic ones. There's one, I think it's Jammin' in New York, where it's like a whole section on like the Gulf War and like and it's like it's funny, but it's like, oh, like unlike the other stuff, you need some context
Sure,
to,
right.
Watching it 30 years later.
Yeah. Carlin, famous Skullet. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Most famous?
Is he the most famous? Here's the
Unless
thing.
you count like Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin's another one.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin's another one. We were talking about Da Vinci earlier, and I've been watching the Ben Franklin doc. Boy, what a dickhead. This guy was a real shithole of a human, but great.
Ben Franklin or Da Vinci?
Great husband. Well, it depends on what you think. It's like for Ben Franklin, I think his biggest sin is probably leaving his sick wife in America while he's in England fucking hookers for 12 years.
Yeah.
But I think with Da Vinci, it could have been children, So it's tough.
Electricity? Come on. That's something.
So who's to say?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think either way, Ben Franklin, he gets a pass because he's got a great Skullet. Carlin,
Yeah, that's right. That's truly.
Carlin also, but no one sees him and thinks of Skullet. I think they just see he was a guy who had hair, and now he's just like, I don't know. There's just so many other things about Carlin, minus the Skullet, that people don't really, put two and two together.
Also, not to get too technical, but wouldn't Carlin also do ponytail a lot?
Does that mean you can't? If you have a ponytail, does that mean you're not a Skullet?
I don't want to make any like blanket
Aspersions,
statements. Yeah. No, but I'm saying I feel like Skullet, we usually think of it as like because you actually see the like kind of turn.
Right. Yeah. He did ponytail mostly all the time. I thought. Yeah. It's tough to say. But as the mayor of Skulletville, I think we should be making rules about whether or not. And honestly, I'm calling it. He's got a Skullet. That's even if you have a ponytail, it's still a Skullet.
Gotcha. Also, we're going through these names. These are like the most famous people in history. This is there's really a theme. Yeah,
you're right, and it's a thing. It's like it's Carlin, it's Ben Franklin, and it's Ronnie Fleming. By the way, check this out. I met a Skullet in the wild at a show.
Oh, hey!
Look at that hair, man. I mean, I don't think I would.
Well, that's very different from yours, though, because that one's like a circle.
Yeah. He loved the Skullet material. And he bought a T-shirt. We appreciate you back in Toledo, but if I ever come back, please, whoever. Okay, by the way, if you live in Toledo, find this man, and we got to get him back on. We got to get him on the pod. We've seen the back of his head.
Yes.
And if you DM me privately, I'll show you the front of his head. It sounded like it was going in a completely opposite direction. But
that's the lamest OnlyFans I've ever heard of.
You want to see the front of the skull?
Face? Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Lots is going on this week, man. I mean, we got the death of the funeral of Jimmy Carter.
The funeral of Jimmy Carter. Yeah.
Jimmy Carter. Everyone thinks he's like such a nice guy, but you know what his final, like his last wish was?
Yeah.
To burn Los Angeles to the ground.
That's true.
So it's pretty fucked up,
Yeah. The power of that guy, though.
I know. Executive power needs to be checked. Okay, checks and balances. That's all I'm gonna say. He people think he was upset because Reagan famously beat him in the election.
Sure.
And Reagan was the governor of California.
Yeah,
which is why he wanted to do it. But honestly, it was because he wanted to run against Kamala. He wanted to be instead of Kamala. So he just actually, it was a whole.
You can have two motives. You can have, that's fine.
He's smiting the entire Democratic Party over there. So.
Yeah, that I didn't watch any of the funerals. Those presidential funerals go on for forever. I mean, they're yeah.
It was a real who's who of just like presidents.
Well, I mean, so you got all the clips of Trump and Obama.
Yeah.
Trump just apparently just cracking him up, and then but even better than that was the Bush the tap.
Oh, the tap was cool.
The tap
Yeah.
was something.
I know.
It's one of those things that I like. I think I watched it like 20 times because it's like literally 2 seconds, so it just keeps replaying.
Yeah.
And that just, after it's like a joke. After like 8 times, you get sick of it, and then by like 15, 16, it's like it's coming back.
I think if they weren't at a funeral, he would have given him a nut tap. You know what I mean?
At his own funeral, yeah. One final nut tap. Yeah.
It's like when his dad died. It was like closed casket.
Yeah.
Because I know my son's gonna touch my dick again. You know? He's gonna nut tap me. That's
Bush
crazy.
Senior liked to grab an ass or two, right?
He sure
Wasn't that
did.
his thing?
That
yeah.
was his thing. Yeah. Wasn't it near the end? Him in a wheelchair. He just kind of was groping
I
some
think
woman.
he was already in a wheelchair. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
That was definitely part of the Me Too things where it was like, I think that was one of the stories during
That was one of the things.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seemed like it was a bit of a. He just seemed like so geriatric at that point.
Yeah. But what? You can't do that. He's just a one-termer. You got no.
That's true, man. All the one-termers are falling.
Carter, yeah.
Is there any one-termer that's still alive?
That's a good question. I don't think so.
Biden?
Would have been Trump. Oh, Biden. Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Someone check on Joe Biden right now.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Someone check on Joe Biden. He looks great, but I got a bad feeling. It's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy, man. Yeah, and then also just to keep it with current events, have you keep track of this the FS1 lawsuit at all?
No.
Fox Sports 1 is crazy, man. It's just dropped last week, but basically, Skip Bayless.
Sure.
Skip Bayless apparently in this lawsuit, there's a bunch of other people that got named too, but Skip Bayless apparently he offered his makeup artist $1.5 million to sleep with her, with him.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you imagine? So that's like, so I've just been kind of like keeping track of that. I just wonder, a lot of people online right now, they're like, that he should be, like, why wouldn't she like accept it? Like 1.5 million.
That's the take. That's the main take. Okay.
It's like the lawsuit was like 1.5 million, but it's like, I don't even know how you even like, keep someone to that kind of thing. Like, like is it going to be in writing? Do you like,
Right. Oh man, Bayless is did you used to watch First Take when it was him and Stephen A.
Stephen
Smith?
A. Of course. Yeah.
So entertaining. Both had terrible takes and even worse at arguing for their takes, but so entertaining.
Yeah. No, it was almost too stupid. I could watch it for a little bit and then I just felt myself like, common day brain rotting.
I would listen like in the gym because like it's so high energy that I feel like it, and also obviously if you stop paying attention for a minute or two, you're fine. You're not missing any gems.
Totally. Yeah. I don't really have any take on this fucking thing other than it's like, how do you even like pay someone? I don't even know how you can give someone $1.5 million.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Venmo's like 900 max. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
how are you moving that money?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and how would people not know? It's like whenever I play poker or like buy weed or something, it's like I put pizza in there, but it's like, pizza for 2 pizza emojis for sex.
What's the emoji he would have put? That's a good question. Yeah.
It's just very like $600 installments of like, man, this is like really good.
Like upside down smiley face, something where it's just like, I don't know, that could mean anything. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's been going on. It's been a kind of a crazy start of the year.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
He's looking for confirmation. Yeah.
Tim is just like, I guess not.
The fires is wild. And then I guess Skip. I guess those are the big two. Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Tony, his house burned down.
Yeah, I have a friend whose house burned down too.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Tony Hopkins. All right. So, he's Tony to me. But,
no, of course. Yeah, I know. He's
Me and Marty.
I just call him Sir. I just call it. Yeah. I love Tony Hopkins. Might be the best of the. I like when they call him Bobby De Niro or Marty. Yeah. Marty is good with
Marty's
Scorsese,
great. Yeah,
but Tony might be the best one because that one is like, wait, who are you talking about? Oh yeah.
Let's just go back. Let's go to the beginning, man. What got you into comedy, man?
Oh, from the beginning? Well, I mean, I loved. My parents are really funny, and my whole family's really funny.
Are they very smart?
They're very smart.
So your mom's a doctoress, right?
Yeah, that's right. And my dad's a doctor too. Both parents doctors.
Oh, wow.
That's how they met. They were doing research on prostates, and One thing leads to another, I guess.
That's crazy. All my research has left me alone at this age in life. Yeah.
But both hilarious, both like family, all my cousins and all that stuff's just super, super funny. So like on long car rides, there would always be like, I don't know, Mel Brooks and Dangerfield and old school comedy, and loved comedy movies, all that stuff. And then I went to college. I did some like theater stuff in high school, but nothing much. And my buddy and I didn't really know what we wanted to do. I think he had already gotten into law school or something like that. I was thinking Teach for America. I don't know, that was like past round one or whatever.
Yeah.
And kind of on a whim, we decided like, oh, let's try to move to Chicago and do like Second City and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So moved to Chicago, really loved it. We were doing more like sketch and improv stuff. It was going pretty well. And then we got a writing gig in New York, kind of like a temporary thing. It was like for a pilot. But that's what inspired us to move back to New York. I'm from New York originally. And then I started stand-up. I just was like, the thing with like, did you ever do like improv? And
Sure, yeah.
It just wasn't for me. I mean, like good improv is amazing and I like seeing it. Bad improv is awful. But stand-up just felt more natural and having total control. I like that.
Yeah.
And writing beforehand as opposed to the improv where it's like, I mean, odds are you're not going to get much.
Right, yeah.
And then, been doing stand-up for like almost a decade. So, yeah.
Are you still writing at all? Like, and you guys you wrote that pilot. I was always very fascinated by this part of your story. Like, you guys were like doing that for a little bit. Were you like with MTV, right?
Yeah, we did an MTV thing, and then keep writing, do stuff. Got to like pitch some stuff, and we're working on a movie script, which I think is like pretty. I think it's pretty good, but kind of moving slowly through it. Writing. This is the first time I've ever written a movie script, and damn, that's a daunting task. Those things are long.
Yeah, man. Don't get me started. I've been working on this movie called This Strange Change. It's a body switch movie, but it's a man and woman, and it's a body horror. And the twist is that they don't switch back. And anyway, it's been a thing. I'm like,
gave away the whole.
At the very end, he gets pregnant, and she dies, and then he gives birth to her. It's like a whole thing. It's like that.
Well, at least you have an arc. I mean, that's great.
I have an arc.
I have no ending, no nothing.
I get the whole thing. I just I'm 30 pages in, and I'm just
That's about where it happened. Like, I feel like 30 pages is about where it's like, I just don't know where to go with this thing. And
it's the second act. It's like,
yes, that's what it is. That's it. That's
the story I'm having a problem with, I really enjoy telling people.
Character well, and I get his deal.
Yeah, I just don't like the whole writing part,
Yeah, the writing part. Yeah,
it's been dragging me through the mud. But so you guys, does he do comedy? Your writing partner?
He is more a comedy writer, strictly comedy writer. We used to perform together in Chicago and stuff, and he's good like on stage also, but he kind of focuses more on the writing stuff. Gotcha.
How long, when you first started doing stand-up, did you do the road? Because that's how you and I met.
Earlier than I kind of should have, to be honest. Or I shouldn't say that, but earlier than like I wasn't good enough to like really perform on the road. Certainly not in terms of just like pure quantity. I mean, I just didn't have enough minutes, because I feel like on the road, if you're doing a lot of those gigs that we were doing together, you should have at least like 20.
Sure.
And, a couple years into comedy, you might have 20, but it's going to be not great.
Yeah.
But I'm obviously grateful for the opportunities because it makes you better and all that stuff. But it was like 2 years into comedy that I started doing some of those road gigs.
That is wild, man. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, those road gigs were incredible as far as just like the amount of stage time, especially like where we started in New York, man. They're just like like the 1 minute, 2 minute mics bullshit.
Yeah, you're paying like $10 for like 2 minutes of time where no one's paying attention. I mean, it's crazy, the New York scene with the open mics. And tell me, like, for Pittsburgh open mics, is there a real audience?
Sometimes.
More
often than not, there are.
That's great.
Yeah, versus like, that's the thing. New York comedy open mics is usually there's nobody. It is kind of interesting that there's different cities that they're just like the open mics are like in DC. It's like a show. It's like there's like real, it's a full packed thing. I don't understand how do you make that the culture of open mic comedy to turn into that.
I mean, I guess people love the process or whatever.
Yeah,
and then maybe they like the idea of like going to an open mic and maybe 9 people suck, but one person is like, oh, hey, I saw them at an open mic. Like, that's cool.
Right.
But I mean, I agree with you. But New York open mics are just because when you don't have normal people as audience members, comics, they kind of only like the super dark stuff. They kind of only they're not a good gauge, and they're not paying attention. That's the most important part. They're worried about their own set, which I totally get.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I wonder if it has to do with curation, right? So, you get an open mic, it's just like, a free for all of like whatever, right? Like here's these insane ideas, and I just crawled off the street, and I've got bugs on me or whatever. And now,
right.
I think like if you're like, someone's got to be a bad guy, be like, no, it's got to be. We're gonna like make this like the first like 12 are actually really good comics, right? And then it becomes a thing of like, then you can get like, this strange.
I feel like some of those like bringer shows used to do that a little bit better, but those were like a scheme. And
true, yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm past the first few years of comedy. Those are not pleasant.
True, yeah. You got something, Tim?
I'm curious, like with Kill Tony blowing up, and that kind of is based off the open mic process. If people are discovering comedy that way, and then they're going to see like an open mic advertised in their city and go to it and be like, oh no, this is not what I thought it was, like thinking it's more of a show than it is,
Yeah, because it's like I don't watch much Kill Tony, but at least with Kill Tony, then you have the pros rip on, or not necessarily rip on, or compliment the person who just went.
Right.
An open mic is like it's just the comics that are doing the short sets. But I think you're totally right. That must have like made this kind of culture more popular.
Yeah, and I went to a DC open mic just to watch it, and it was like a show. It was pretty curated. Like it was. People were doing 2 minutes, and it was 3 minutes, and they were all very good. And I was like, oh, this is like coming to a free show. So that's part of it too. Like you said, I think it's curated in a lot of areas.
Yeah, it's gonna be a real labor of love. And I fucking hate hosting open mics, so I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Someone else can do it. Take this burden from me, okay? But I'm never gonna do it.
Hosting in general is, you're a martyr for the show. I mean, you really like.
That is true.
I mean, you can have good sets. I mean, it's not impossible, but that is the only position where, obviously, if you're doing a regular spot or headlining or featuring, you want to do well for the sake of the show, but you don't really care. Like, you're kind of worried about your own shit.
Right.
But for hosting, it's like, I mean, you got to get in the mindset of like, if this is a good show, then I did a good job.
Yeah.
Which is kind of just a whole nother thing.
Yeah. The real givers, That's why. But here's the thing: when I host it, and when I host the show, it's not about the show. It's about me and me only.
Yeah.
And if I'm going down, everybody's going down too. Okay.
I'll ask you this, because you're not a particularly low energy or high energy comic. I feel like you're like me, like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you pep it up?
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
I do, and no, I go crazy sometimes.
Oh, it's just wild.
I will go full on just manic.
No mic.
No
yeah,
mic.
just
Screaming and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten notes from other comics to be like, don't do this anymore.
Is that true? It's
yeah,
like
we did
Kinnison meets Maniscalco. It's wild.
We did a show called Insanity at Insanity. So one of the shows we do is at a tanning salon, right?
Okay.
But this specific show was supposed to be like crazy. Like we're just like, and it's part stand-up, it's part game show, right?
Okay.
And I went bonkers. Tim was there. He's laughing. He gets it. But I went fucking crazy to a point that the crowd was not ready for jokes.
It was like disturbing.
They only wanted crowd work. That was the only thing they could possibly do well because of what I had done to them. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm screaming, and I'm like, I'm not wearing a top hat, but I'm kind of wearing a top hat,
I guess, is that the general rule of thumb of hosts, where it's like, you can do crowd work if that's your thing, but like, you got to at least tell like a couple jokes just to set the expectation that's like, this is what a comedy show is.
Kind of. I think it's a combination, right? So what makes a good host? Let's get into it. I don't know. Yeah. I think it's like, I think there should be some crowd work, at least, or just like being like, I'm in the room. Or I don't think you should go right into your set, right?
Sure.
I think there's got to be some sort of like conversation happening.
I think I agree with that. I mean, unless maybe some people's material has like a certain breaking the wall aspect to it, but most of the time I agree. Something where at least it's like, hey, Happy New Year.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
just got to say Happy New Year.
And you can do that whenever.
Year round. Absolutely.
Please, Happy New Year, whatever. I don't know. That's the only way that people can tell that I've updated my act at all, I'm still doing...
This guy's in the moment.
I'm like, Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I know.
Man, January 10th, right? Whoa. Did that guy write that today? It's either that or it's a year old. And I'm not going to, yeah.
Aren't you guys glad we're not wearing masks anymore? And then I go right into
People love that. People, yeah.
No, I have a thing that I was like, like after the pandemic, it was like, no one wants to hear pandemic jokes. And I'm like, well, I got this new one. And I was like, for a while it was hitting, and now I'm starting to feel like it's not hitting at all. I'm actually kind of sad about it.
Well, the pandemic is weird because we're in that weird limbo period of, and I know you might say like, it's still the pandemic, but all right. But
those kind of people do not listen to our podcast.
Oh, thank God. Well,
all right, Tim has made sure of that.
Good thing that there are no sheep listening to this. I think we're in a weird limbo period where it's not quite current events and it's not quite history.
Sure, yeah.
Which is a strange time to talk about something.
Yeah. See, I was even going to a point where I'm like, I know it's late that I'm talking about it, and that's why
I just got my joke.
I just finally got the joke, and it's also just like, isn't it kind of silly that I'm doing a pandemic joke right now? But at that point, it's like I don't know. It's like I'm growing this hair ironically, but no one knows that.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I did a show at the City Winery Thursday, and then one of the bar backs was just like, "Hey, man," and he was a very nice guy, gay gentleman. I think this matters, but he was just like, "Look, man."
Oh, you got to say gentleman.
I think it matters because he would just try to tell me that bald guys are hot.
Okay.
And you can shave your head. Yeah. And I'm like, I did that.
Right,
I know.
Right. I think
I'm growing out.
I like it. I mean, I like the look of having some on the back.
Yeah.
Also, shaving your head has got to be, you got to probably do, how often would you have to do it?
3 times, every 3 days. 3 times a day.
That's crazy.
Believe me.
I was bald on top, but the rest of my hair is just like really luscious. Yeah.
Just lunch and dinner. Yeah.
Tim's electricity bill was through the roof.
Got it. With the toothbrush in one side. And then, that's great.
I'm basically an android.
Yeah. But oh my God. Once every 3
or 4
days,
days,
exhausting. Yeah.
I actually did like doing it, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, I just kept doing it, and then, 3 times every 3 or 4 days.
Girlfriend prefer this or shaved it?
She does not like this.
She does not like this.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I have not met a woman who does like it.
I see.
But I'm doing it for me,
Yeah.
I'm doing it for
the gay gentleman.
For the gay? No, the gay guy thinks I should shave it.
Yeah.
Only people that like it are straight men.
Right. He said to shave it. Sorry. Yeah.
And then he just kind of looked at me kind of weird, and then another guy.
It's just straight guy. This is for straight guys.
It's not for you. I'm doing it for the straights. So I don't know. But, by the way, if you guys enjoy the podcast, obviously rate, review, subscribe. But also, I will be getting a haircut soon. And not like, I'm not cutting it. Yeah. I mean, I am technically cutting it, but we're doing a little design. We're gonna kind of like really lean into the Skullet.
How so? Like what that guy did? The circle thing?
No, I don't think I think you need to be a samurai to pull that off.
Yes.
But I'm gonna be
even then. Even only then. Because they're so stealth, you don't see it. Yeah.
No, it'll be. I'm gonna be doing a little off the sides.
Okay.
And I think off the top, and then maybe also like line it up too.
Okay.
So it'll look less like I'm in denial, and more like, oh, this is on purpose. Yeah.
I wish I were there to see you give the instructions to the barber. I think that'll be fun.
We will be posting it. So
we'll be posting it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah, we'll be posting it. We'll make a little video. So tune in, folks. If you're at the 30 mark here, don't tune away. We've been following our analytics. We know when people are leaving. Don't leave, okay?
This is where you reprimand people.
Yeah, don't I know what you're up to, okay? But please.
You don't have anything to do.
You don't. Our listeners don't have anything to do.
No, stop pretending,
Yeah, what else you got going on?
I gotta wash my dishes. No, just let it soak. Yeah.
So doctor parents, what is that? What is that like? Like,
It's weird because my parents had very different philosophies when it comes to medical kind of stuff. My mom is the one where it was like, oh, you have like a bit of a headache, here's a Tylenol, like drug you up. it's some sort of solution for everything. My dad is the kind of doctor where it's like, he doesn't trust. I don't think my dad's been to a doctor in 50 years.
What?
He's that guy who's just like, listen, I went to medical school with these people. They're fucking all quacks. Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's very different perspectives on it.
Huh.
And so I grew up in this very strange, hide the Tylenol from dad type thing.
Do they ever get arguments about like medical advice?
I think.
Hold on. Are you ever like, I'm going to get a second opinion?
Yeah.
Mom!
Yeah. That's right. I think at this point you like know their philosophy so well that you're like, I don't even need to know the thing. But it's weird because anytime I'm a pretty bad hypochondriac, and that might partly be due to having doctor parents. And so you have them to call if you feel like something's not going well. But I feel like it's almost better to not have doctor parents, even though it's like you have access to experts. It's also just like it's probably in your head and like you're calling too soon and all that kind of stuff.
What are their fields?
So my dad's a urologist, so urinary tract.
Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. You are correct.
Oh, okay.
I was like, he's an ass doctor. Yeah.
Well, you got to get to the prostate somehow. Yeah. But, and my mom is a endocrinologist, which is hormones.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's a medical doctor. He's a surgeon.
He's a surgeon. Right on. That's cool. Is he intense? Those are crazy hours, surgeon hours.
Growing up, it was pretty bad. Part of the reason why people go into urology, other than, seeing ticks all day, is that they, I need a second reason, but that the hours are a little, it's not as bad as like a heart surgeon or brain surgeon type thing. But he had the old school beeper and like, you'd be at my birthday party and so yeah, there was some of that, but my mom's hours were more. I mean, she works her ass off, but it's more predictable. Like,
gotcha,
when she's working.
Huh? And do they were always like fans of like go do comedy, and you're an only child. I mean, that's a lot of like
doctor parents, Jewish, the whole thing. No, comedy was not the dream. Considering how much it was not the dream, they're incredible. No, they're incredibly supportive from any kind of perspective, but it was not. Yeah, that's not like the goal. To have a comedian son.
Have they ever come out and seen you?
Oh yeah, many times. They were at my special recording. They came to both shows.
Oh, that's
they're
really
super.
nice.
They're super supportive.
Plus, it's like it's in New York. It's like it's not.
Yeah,
like,
no, it would have been weird. Yeah, my dad got a beeper call about 20 minutes in, which conveniently was when I was bombing. Crazy.
Does it always keep happening?
Yeah, right. It's 20 minutes. It was really generous. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool how supportive they are. And like my dad he's from the former Soviet Union. He moved here in his 20s. He doesn't like having a comedian son. That wasn't part of the plan.
Right.
But he's awesome about it. And my mom was, after college, tried to be a singer for a little while.
Oh.
And she's got like a great voice. And then she started working in a lab to make money. And she kind of fell in love with that. And that was her route to being a doctor researcher.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And you're married.
I'm a married guy. Yeah,
I remember when your wife came to the first show that
you were at a big moment.
I was. Did not get that wedding invite, but I mean, it's okay. Where did you do it? Where'd you get married?
We got married in Massachusetts.
I love Massachusetts. I actually love Massachusetts. It's like great. Was it open bar? I love open bar. That's amazing. Wow.
It's great. All I had to say was the state. There's a lot of different areas of Massachusetts. Somehow Ronnie loves all of them.
New England, beautiful.
Yeah. Worcester.
Wow. Love the chowder. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
And how long have you been married?
About a year and a half.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah. How long were you dating before she saw you perform?
That must have been, so it was pre-pandemic, right? Oh, no. It was pandemic.
Was it?
I think so.
Okay.
Because we started dating so we went to the same high school. We knew each other in high school. Then didn't talk for 10 years about. Then during the pandemic, I started posting some videos, just like, like we didn't have stand-up really. So just like some sketches kind of thing. And she DM'd me and was like, hey, these are really funny. And I was a little like, is she flirting? Is she not? Oh, whatever. And then we had like a couple like FaceTime dates.
Oh, yeah.
And so we started dating during like pretty much the heart of the pandemic. And then I think fast forward like maybe a year or like 6 or 8 months, she might have seen me perform at like a short set in New York. But that was the first time she saw me. We did a show in New Hampshire, in Nashua, I think.
Yes.
And me and Ronnie and Jeff McBride were on the show, and that's when she saw me do like a extended set. And, you know, obviously it went all right. So.
Well, here's the thing. Jeff and I bombed. So, you know, it was perfect.
You were asking about the wedding invite. I don't know.
So it was perfect. We set you up. I mean, honestly, like in comparison, it's like
a lot of crickets in Massachusetts for you to.
It's also funny. It's like, what is comedy like? I guess everyone's bald except for Ben.
Yeah, on my way. Yeah, they're all on their way to be bald, or But she liked that show. I remember that was actually a trip where I learned a lot about her too.
Oh, really?
Because I said to her, like, listen, we're making the drive there and back. It's a far trip. We'll probably get home at about 1. And then we're in the car and I look at the clock and I'm like, actually, it'll probably be closer to 2. And her face just went like white. And it was like it's just an hour. I was like, it's not that big of a deal. And she's like, yeah, but we said like 1. And that was the first time I was like, oh, she's like the kind of person that like she has a plan. And if that plan is thrown off, it takes her a second to adjust.
Right.
Which I relate to, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. I think when you get something like stuck, that's an extreme version, obviously.
Yeah.
Because that you feel like you're getting home late. Like late is late. Like 1 and 2, like what's the difference?
Right.
But I remember like seeing her face and being like, oh, I'm learning something here.
That's good, man. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's one of 2 ways you could take that. Where you're like, oh man, this is like a very strict, like in a bad way, but for you, took it as a good way. And she's like a pretty like high achiever too, right? I found it as a what do you mean? Your wife, like she's killing it. Yeah. She. I think I'm fair. She just got a promotion. That's like amazing, a big man. Promotion. Yeah. I don't know when this is coming out, but no one at the company can watch this if it's not within the next 2 weeks. But she's just like kills it at her job. She works in tech, and she's like, I think I was telling you, but she like whatever the opposite of ADD is. Like when she's working, I've never seen someone so locked in. It's crazy. And of course, part of my job, especially if like I'm dicking around during the day or whatever, it's just like trying to find bits to get her not to, which is not a good husband. Here, honey, keys. A lot of the, the escalator down behind the couch type thing. Yeah. She loves that one. That one's great. That one's just hard to explain. Yeah. Is it science? Is it magic? No, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's cool though. Yeah, it makes sense though. I didn't know that you were like that though. Also, I've got certain, definitely like neuroses in general. I mean, I knew that. I thought I was keeping it really close to the vest. All right, but yeah, a little bit. Maybe I don't have that exactly, but I do get the feeling of feeling anxious for no logical reason. Right. Yeah. So that I did feel like connected to her. And also it's just one of those things when you're dating, when you're like learning something new about someone where you're like, oh, not everyone knows this about you, but I do. And that's cool. That's great. Yeah. And how long you been married now? About 1.5 years. How'd you propose? I proposed in Prospect Park, which was where our first like in-person date was. I love Prospect Park. I'm not going to invite you to the proposal. Now we're getting really. Ronnie running bits while you're proposing. I actually love that bit of the person who's not upset that they didn't get invited to the wedding, but is actually really pissed about not being invited to the proposal. I mean, we're close. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Prospect Park's the new Central Park. That's what I always say. It's bigger. I think it's technically bigger. I like it better. But yeah, it's a great park. Yeah. Same guys. I mean, it's like kind of like it looks the same. Like on a map. So if I had known you knew this much about Prospect Park, yes. I've been watching documentaries about it. It's a tour. It's just a private tour with you. It's like, at one point. Can I ask a question? It's actually to her. I proposed there. I was about to say we proposed there. I remember. Yeah. I was like, no, the ring. And right. Although it was like late at night and like I didn't actually like go into the party. We kind of like
proposed at the outskirts. And then I think I did a pretty good job of going to one of our favorite restaurants after. And I called in advance and they had champagne and the whole thing. They had rose petals and stuff. That was a little much. Jesus Christ.
It's a little gauche.
yeah. Everyone's looking. But yeah, it was cool. And I got the ring, the box. I'm one of these people where like the box lit up.
What?
Yeah, it was like really cool. So I proposed. She took the ring, and I was like, "Do you mind if I like keep the box?" This box is kind of sick.
She's working. And you're like,
yeah, it's crazy.
What do you mean it lights up? Like a
I got to show you
sneaker?
this.
Like a
yeah. Kind of like or like one of those old scooters. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. The ring cost $10. The box cost $3,000.
You missed out, Ronnie. That sounds like a cool proposal.
Yeah,
I love lights. It's like for you, the ring is the wedding, and for you, it's like my special is the box.
Yeah. But
you think about having kids?
we definitely are.
Well, you're trying. You're telling me.
We are trying. We are trying.
You told everybody.
Yeah, I have some bits on it. It's kind of a weird thing because I posted a clip. I collabed with this club, and in the clip, I'm like saying I'm trying, or we're trying, and the I'm trying so hard.
she doesn't know.
Why are you tracking my ovulation? I'm a numbers guy. I don't know. Yeah. It calms me. So so I wrote a few bits, but I posted one bit, and before I did, I was like, "Are you comfortable with this?" Because I don't know if it's public knowledge or not. It was less about strangers knowing and more about is a random relative going to comment on this. And sure, yeah, I think they did. But my wife is pretty incredible in terms of talk about anything on stage. I don't get offended. I don't get not that I love her. I'm not going to shit talk her on stage, but in terms of privacy type stuff, she's very, totally cool about that stuff.
Well, this is a PSA to anybody who's been a fan of the pod and past guests. Lucas Connolly just was a dad yesterday, became a dad. So Mazel Tov. Cheers to Lucas and Jenny. And Lucas, Lucas never listens. He's not going to watch this. Good luck to that kid. Yes, that's the point. Well, Lucas is a dad. You're going to have a tough road to hoe. Jenny's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So if you need anything, Uncle Ronnie's out here in Pittsburgh. I'm not going to give you any money, but
but sport. Yeah,
but that's great. Congratulations to them.
That's awesome.
So yeah, man, that's you excited to be a dad?
I hope. I feel I don't want to jinx it too much, but yeah, I always kind of wanted to be a dad. What about you? Is that a thing you would?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's if you don't want to be a dad and you're wearing a Bluey shirt, it's kind of he's like, I hate kids actually. You have cartoon shirt.
Sorry that I like television.
I'm just a fan of the written word on screen. I was thinking about when I was wearing this. And by the way, this is gray on gray. This is a gray outfit. It's called a grout. I don't know if you guys are keeping up with modern lingo, but they call it a grout.
Okay.
And
you had no follow up. You're too proud of yourself to think of the next thought.
I do have a follow up, but I'm like, I don't know that I should, but whatever. Basically, I know the common lingo. I date a lot of age inappropriate women, so. My last girlfriend was pretty young, not as young as my current girlfriend.
The Bluey shirt's not hers. That's
It definitely is actually.
Oh, Bluey, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
That's it's a smart show. You could watch that up till 8, 9.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, with the Skullet wearing a Bluey shirt, it's like, I'm not like a 25-year-old fucking as I get older and I look more and more gross, this becomes more and more.
I think Coco Melon is a little younger. I think that would be 4.
Yeah, it was a bold choice, but I thought it was pretty sweet. Little outfit here. I don't know. Would I be? Yeah, of course. I guess so. Fatherhood seems like a thing that.
Webster's dictionary defines father. Where are we going with this?
I don't know. I always wanted. Were you a Wonder Years fan?
I love the Wonder Years. Yeah,
I think we've connected
time.
over the years, but that was always the Wonder Years was a thing. I was like, this would be. I wanted to be a dad because of that.
He was a shitty dad. Dad was like famously not giving anything.
I know.
Once every like 20 episodes, he'd be like, "Proud of you, kid," and you're like, "Holy!"
Was he a shitty dad, or was he?
From what I remember, he was a very. He was like a very like he represented the old school, right? Because the show takes place in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And so it was, he was like the go to work every day, not show much love kind of dad.
He was very gruff.
He was gruff. He was a cool guy. I get wanting to be him.
Yeah.
But I don't get wanting to be him like as a good dad. Does that make sense?
I guess so. I don't know why that show. It's like very childhood specific and stuff, and you're like, I want to do this, but I was like, I don't even know why that makes me want to be a dad at all. I think I just miss being a kid, maybe.
Bluey makes me want to be a dad. Yeah. Just so I have someone to watch.
That's a thing. I just need someone to hang out with, you know? All my friends are becoming dads and having kids. I'm like, damn it, dude.
Everyone's judging me. I like to watch it outdoors for some reason.
I like to watch on the subway really loud, on my phone. But yeah, I could be a dad. I don't know. Are you? I know you're like a big Beatles guy and stuff. Are you reading anything, watching anything lately? What's?
Oh, Beatles stuff. There's a great how I think we also bonded on the LBJ stuff, right? The Robert Caro books.
Did you read those books?
I did. Yeah.
I only read the one about Robert Moses.
Well, that one's even more intense, I feel like. I mean, it's one volume, but like still. Isn't that like one of the densest books ever?
It is. Humble brag, I read it all.
Yes.
But the LBJ books are like several of them. I thought that there was I think altogether it's probably more than...
More pages for sure. Yeah. So Robert Caro is this historian who actually went to my high school, but 50 years ago.
Wow.
Some people wear all gray. Some people go to the same high school as an illustrious historian. Some people do both. It's crazy. But he wrote a book about Robert Moses, and then who was like an unelected official who had more power in the New York scene than probably anyone in history. Like crazy.
Yeah, he was unelected by he had 7 offices at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like all the highways and bridges and all that stuff is
He carved up New York City. Like New York it looks the way it is. It's like the transportation's the way it is, all because of him.
Yeah.
So he had his thumbprints like all over New York, and I don't think it'll ever change because of
and a famous son of a bitch.
Oh, asshole. Absolutely.
Bad guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, Caro then wants to write a book on Lyndon Johnson. And at first I think he's starting to write it. And then he's like, oh, well, if I write this, I've got to move to the hill country for years to understand Lyndon Johnson's childhood.
What?
And then soon after that, he's like, well, this can't be 1,000-page book. This has to be 5 1,000-page books.
Yeah.
He's like a parody of a guy that's going to give you every last detail.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring him up is because there's kind of a Beatles equivalent where I think it's going to be a 3-volume biography on the 4 of them.
Huh.
And only the first volume has come out that ends, from what I remember, it's like a lot about them in Hamburg. I think it ends with them I don't even think they're in America yet.
Damn.
That's how detailed the thing is, because it's like an 800-page book.
I mean, honestly, that the pre-movie coming to America does feel a little bit like, the first X amount of years of Jesus' life, where you're like, oh, he was like fucking in Egypt for a little bit, and then he came out, and you're like, okay, and then he did all,
This is the thing.
Then he had the hits.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. Don't read it unless you're a big Beatles fan.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
Of course, you're like the biggest Beatles fan.
I love the Beatles. Yeah. But even for me, I'm like, I don't need to know John Lennon's, second cousin's middle name. This is getting a bit much.
Yeah.
But yeah, reading anything now, that's like random stuff. I read mainly nonfiction.
Really?
That's how you were reading a novel, but yeah.
Yeah. What do you read? What are you reading now?
What did I read recently?
I just read something just now. You mentioned it.
Well, the Beatles thing I read a little while ago. The recent stuff I've been reading, I read this math thing. I like math a lot too. So there's a history of mathematics book I was reading for a while. Yeah. No,
Real
I'm
page turner, dude. That sounds interesting.
well,
The history of
it's
math-
boring at first, but once you get to Newton, it just
It's a real Da Vinci over here.
Oh yeah. Well, it doesn't mean I absorb anything. I say I read things.
I
but
can't even imagine reading a book about mathematics.
I like the mix of, 'cause you were watching the Da Vinci. I like history of science, history of math. I find that
Okay,
really,
I guess
really interesting.
okay, that makes sense. I guess it's just like I'm just imagining you reading equations and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But
The book's upside down. Yeah, you're just like But I like.
what
that
does it
stuff.
cover? And I know like we're probably boring everybody, but we can cut it. But I'm actually very interested.
Oh, I was just about to think like, oh, this is where it's getting good. Here we go.
The retention analytics on this are going to be crazy.
Happy you stuck around after minute 25? Leibniz. What is it? That one, this is like a sweeping one. It's just called History and Math. So this one's like, Babylonians up until like recent people.
So are they talking about how they're like building shit based on the math and trigonometry?
Some
and
of that,
stuff?
yeah. Some of like, why did people invent math? Was it just for practical purposes, or was it, just kind of more? Because like when you get to like Pythagoras, it's like they think it's like spiritual almost, like the language of like the divine and stuff like that, which is cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I had a teacher named Mrs. Mateer. She was a math teacher. I didn't. My parents were not doctors, and I fell asleep a lot in class. And I remember her waking me up because in math class, in my experience, you miss the first 2 weeks. You miss any time.
Absolutely.
You're lost.
Yes.
And at that point, I had given up on the whole year. You know what I mean? I'm just like, it's over for me. I'm never going to catch up to what they're doing now. And I
feel that way with stand-up sometimes, by the way. If you like the first 3 minutes don't go well and you're like, well, that was
While you're
game
on
at the old
stage.
college
While you're
try.
on stage.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So I remember her waking me up, and I don't know why I knew this about her, but I knew that she wasn't a mother.
Okay.
And I remember her shaking me up, and she was so sweet about it.
Yeah.
And she was like, Ronnie. It's like, you need to wake up. And I remember looking up at her, and I said this in front of everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you're going to be a great mother one day. And I remember doing that and being like, I really crossed the line there.
Yeah. Also, like how we were talking about me potentially being a father, never heard anything like that coming out of your mouth past 20 minutes.
Well, I mean,
That's right. You fall asleep in one class, and all of a sudden he's predicting good parenthood.
Listen, you're gruff though. You'll be fine.
Yeah, all you do with me is like, you didn't say anything, and then you start talking about the Wonder Years, Dad.
Listen, you and Lucas are fucked. Okay, that's all I know.
My wife will be a good mother.
That's all you need. Is she good at math?
You're gonna be a good mother one day. That's so fun. How old were you?
I was 10th grade.
That's way too old to make that comment.
It's way too old.
It's way too old.
It's way too old. It's like it was borderline fucked up.
Yeah.
And I know that I saw that it affect her, and I don't know that it was in a bad way.
Yeah. I mean, it is a nice thing to say.
Yeah. I think I was
Unless you like mistook it, like everyone seems older when you're a kid. She's like 75 years old. It's like, oh yeah.
I think I was also like having problems with my own mother at that point. So
Yeah.
there was some transference going on, I'm sure.
Right.
My mom always trying to teach me math.
I'm trying to sleep.
But yeah, man. Well, we appreciate you coming out to Pittsburgh, bro. It's great to see you again, man.
Thank you so much for all of the setup and all that stuff. It's show last night was awesome. Yeah. It's great.
Show tonight will be great, I'm sure. Before we get out of here, where can people find you, man, by the way?
Oh, please, Instagram at Ben Kirschenbaum. Tough last name to spell, but hopefully it's in the thing.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
These people are actually, they won't know how to type a computer.
SCH. The SCH is a bit. We got it. We know the sound. You could just do the SH.
Just speak it in, speak and spell. So yeah, like I think when we met, I was a completely bald, shaved guy.
That's right.
And I guess the origin of the Skullet I saw this movie called Love Lies Bleeding.
Love Lies Bleeding. That's recent, right?
Yeah. Ed Harris has a role in it. He's like a villain.
Good looking guy.
Great square jaw, has a six-pack, by the way.
I believe that.
He has a six-pack. He did a movie called Kodachrome, and Jason Sudeikis is in it.
I think I did see that. Yeah.
And Jason Sudeikis is his son, And in the movie, like Ed Harris is like dying, as you remember,
Yeah.
and he just like passed out in the bathroom, and for no reason at all, he just has a full 6-pack.
That's
you know?
awesome. Yeah.
And he makes
That's cool. The casual, I'm dying, but still have a 6-pack. That's a power move. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jason Sudeikis looks like a piece of shit compared to him. He's kind of like drinking.
Your everyman, Ted Lasso. Yeah.
And anyway, here's the Skullet from that movie.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's kind of my goal. And I told my girlfriend this, and she saw Kodachrome, and she's like, "Why would you pick the Skullet out of the two? You could have had a
Crazy.
6-pack, you fucking asshole." Anyway,
He smokes a cigarette well. You ever see Pollock?
no,
That's a movie about Jackson Pollock, and that's one of those. I felt this way about the Bob Dylan movie. If you watch the Bob Dylan movie, the guy, you feel like you're getting lung cancer. Just watch. I mean, it's
Oh, really?
Yeah, and but one of those things. Yeah,
he does,
yeah.
dude. He's also one of the last guys that like were just naturally balding. Like we watched him lose his hair over the
Right
years.
before our eyes,
And
yeah.
it was still cool. It was still just like, he's a fucking... That's... Okay. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, I said I'm at 100 episodes, I'm going to shave it. No. I'm not going to stop doing this podcast until we have Ed Harris on. And that's my solemn goal.
Wow.
Okay? Ed Harris or bust is what we say on the pod. But anyway, I started growing the hair based on that movie. He had a skullet. I'm like...
I bet a lot of people. You know, it's like when people started wearing the Beatles boots. You know, it became became a trend.
A whole generation of 13-year-olds.
Ed Harris in a somewhat well-known movie. Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of like a funny thing to do, you know. But now, like as I'm doing it, it's become like something else. It's become its own thing, you know.
Okay.
It's like I'm getting pushback sometimes, you know. Handsome gay men are telling me to shave it, you know, give it
Right.
up and stuff. But you know, I'm not going to do it. I'm holding on. It's an act of rebellion.
I respect that.
So I'm curious if you've ever had anything in your life that you're like, you know what, maybe, you know, your friends, your family, your doctor parents, other than comedy, were like, don't maybe you shouldn't do this, Ben.
Sure.
But
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, you know what, I've got to. Like, what's your Skullet?
Man, that's a really good question. Reading that math book.
Ben, no.
People were like, even the people at Barnes and Noble were like, what the fuck? We have this? Kind of act. Yeah, I mean, comedy was kind of that was the real off the beaten path thing that I did. Although I should say, like, I just going back, like, it's not that my parents wanted me to be doctors specifically. I think
Yeah.
it's just like the culture of like have a degree.
Sure.
It almost doesn't even matter. So like when I went to Second City and they give you like a little diploma thing, like they like that. They like that there was a piece of paper.
Of course.
But okay, so Skullet, a Skullet like kind of like act of rebellion. Well, as a kid, I was more rebellious than I think I became later on.
Really?
Yeah. I had one thing where, it's like brief story, but they made some rule when I was in 4th grade that everyone had to walk into a line to the buses. It used to be just sort of like a free-for-all, but I think some poor kid like broke his arm or something. I didn't know that part. But but I remember the principal saying this, and I was like, no. I was like, this is an infringement on something.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about the broken arm kid, but even so.
Sure.
One kid breaks his arm, you got to like completely limit and whatever. But I was like, listen, what I'm going to do, I'm going to like hide and not go. So what I did was
What? Wait, hold on. You like hide?
so right before class was dismissed, I run out and I go to the bus by myself as like an act of defiance.
Yeah.
Here was the part that my parents thought was a little weird. I got my friend, but I got my friend Sam. First, Sam was going to do it with me, but then he, you know, not everyone's got the guts to stand for something. But what he did do was I wrote a note that said, "I'm sorry, Miss Ryzak, I simply cannot follow this rule."
What?
I used the word simply.
Oh, God.
Sam at least had the balls to give the note to Mrs. Ryzak. And that was the part where my parents were like, what is that? Like, you gave, and I got in trouble. It was also one of these like annoying things where like, then the principal called me in, I got in trouble for that. And then they were like, oh yeah, and by the way, like you've been terrible in class and you've been doing this. I was like, wait a minute, like punish the thing.
Yeah. They just had to trump up these charges.
So that was in terms of like a moment in my life. That
Yeah.
was a real, to this day, I don't know what it was that just felt so unjust about it.
Yeah, I mean the wording of it is really like what is that? It feels like shit. What is this movie? Fucking escapes me right now. Robin Williams, and it's like they're all standing on
Dead Poets.
Dead Poet.
Yeah,
it feels like did you just watch Dead Poet Society and you're like
maybe that, or maybe I
thought
thought I was like doing something even bigger. I think I probably had just read like
the Constitution.
Yeah, Martin Luther King's notes from jail. I was like, I gotta have a thing.
Dude, that is a civil disobedience, man.
Yeah.
That is crazy, dude. I simply will not.
I simply cannot. Not will not. I cannot. It's not in me.
You're reading all those history books, dude. You're just like in there as a patriot.
You just make up that you're part of the story, and but that's my Skullet. That story is my Skullet.
That's incredible. Do you still feel like you got that kid inside you? Are you like certain things you're like, this is unjustified and doesn't make any goddamn sense?
Every once in a while,
Yeah.
Trying to think of a recent one. Nothing as intense as that
That
in
is
the past 30 years.
I mean, that's you're so emboldened as a young kid. That's so cool.
Yeah. My buddy, actually my writing partner, gave a speech at my wedding. You remember? And sorry, but he was a very sweet because he knows me very, very well, and he was we grew up together and all this stuff, and he was like, Ben is one of the few has a dual nature, and he told part of that story, and he's like the only person that would do that and at the same time be able to call our chess instructor his dear friend. So I have a bit of the fall in line nerd and then a bit of the
Absolutely. Well, Ben, you've been a dear friend, and
thank you. You too.
We appreciate you coming through. Thanks for coming in, being an incredible guest. Make sure you guys follow Ben. Check out his special. It's so funny. He's a great writer, great comic. And in the meantime, folks, please rate, review, subscribe. We'll see you next week. I'll have a new haircut. And remember, please remember, not all growth is good, but just keep in the back of your head.